In this segment, we'll cover setting up customers. Setting up customers gives us the opportunity to add as much or little information as we like into our QuickBooks file. There's some fields that you'll want to add out of necessity and some for your convenience down the road. QuickBooks CRM system is pretty basic, and it does allow you to track a good amount of information about your customers. In fact, it might well be sufficient for your needs. If so, it can save you a great deal of money over an often expensive and potentially overkill CRM system. You might begin using the customer options in QuickBooks before purchasing another system. If you want something more later, you can export those customers in QuickBooks into an Excel file for uploading into another program. So let's begin. To set up a customer, first go to Customers, Customer Center, New Customer and Job, New Customer. You'll see here on the left-hand side there are 5 tabs. We're in the Address Information tab, and that allows us to input contact information and shipping information. Up with the cursor is the customer name. If I type the customer name here and hit Enter, it's only going to populate in that one field. So let me give you a tip that'll save you some time. Type the company name under company name, because more often than not, our company name and customer name are one and the same. So type it in here first, hit Enter, and you'll see that it auto-populates under customer name and in the Invoice Bill To section. Now I'm going to put my customer's name, and his telephone number. I can put as much or as little information in here as I want. The email address is critically important, however. Do yourself a favor. Include the email address where you would email your client's invoice. This is a great time-saving function in QuickBooks. It'll make your life simpler. Now we're going to include the Bill To address for the customer. If the Bill To and the Ship To addresses are the same, all you have to do is hit Copy, and it will auto-populate on the right-hand side. Or you can enter it in its entirety, but if you only have to change a portion of it, you can just highlight it and type over it. Now there's an Other One category up here, and it is for something that's not one of the stock categories. So an additional telephone, be it office phone or cell phone, you can add that information here. And then up at the top, there's an opening balance area. Just leave that blank. QuickBooks has another area and function in which you can enter opening balances, which is much better. So just leave that opening balance blank for the time being. That completes our address information. You can enter the account number if you choose, if you assign account numbers to your customers. You can also enter payment terms. Let's say we want to give this customer net 10. And it's not in our list, so I'm going to add new. I'm going to type in net 10, net due in 10 days. I can enter the preferred delivery method or the preferred payment method if I like, or credit limit. I can also enter the credit card information, but I don't recommend entering credit card information because of the liability. If you do, make sure your QuickBooks is securely passworded, which you should anyway, but especially if you put credit card information, and you have restricted any additional users that do not need to see this information. This can be an area of liability for you and your company if it's not handled securely. You can find the tutorial for setting up sales tax items in groups in the Sales Tax tutorial. Here we're just selecting the correct settings from previously set up options. This section is a must for you to complete so you can calculate and run sales tax reports to give you the numbers to file and remit sales taxes to your state's Department of Revenue. There are only 3 sections, however, they're all important. The first is the tax code, and you have 2 options, tax or non-tax. If your customer is ever subject to sales tax for any item ever, then tax is the correct setting for that customer. If they are tax exempt or they resell the items and they collect the sales tax on their end, then the setting would be non, and it's easy to switch back and forth. The second one is the tax item. As I said, these are based on ones I set up previously. There are several options in here. One is out-of-state exempt, if this were an out-of-state customer. Another is sample state exempt. If my home state had a tax-exempt customer, this would be the setting. And the others are sales tax settings. For this example, I'm just going to pick up the sales tax group here for this particular customer. And the third one is the resale number. That's the number if your customer resells the items and they collect sales tax from their customers. Or you could also put it here, if this is a tax-exempt customer, you can put their tax-exempt number here. You should also keep a copy of the resale certificate or the tax-exempt certificate in the event that you are ever audited. For customer type, the QuickBooks stock options that you see in the drop-down box reflect the source of your customer, say from an advertisement or a referral. But you can create any criteria you like that helps you track your customers. Just make sure it's for one purpose: source of customer, as it is here, type of customer, hospitals, schools. Just don't mix the customer types. Use it for one purpose. And you can add a new field here very simply. Looking at the rep field, this seems like a good idea that makes you think it's worth the time and effort to enter all of this data. But it's not so helpful to us as Ad Specialty Distributors. You can calculate gross sales by sales rep in QuickBooks, but not gross profit by sales rep when you have non-inventory items. And nearly all of us in this industry have non-inventory items. It's usually gross profit that's used as a basis for sales rep commissions in our industry, and this cannot be calculated in QuickBooks for non-inventory items. It's one of our many unique and sometimes frustrating aspects of our industry. But if you want to calculate gross sale by sales rep, you can add new sales reps here. I have developed a workaround for a report by gross profit by sales rep, but it's not so clean and simple as we would like. The last field here are custom fields. You could use designations that would help you track categories of customers, such as hospital or schools, if you haven't used it over here in customer type. Creating these custom fields allows you to run reports filtered on these fields. For instance, what were your sales to your hospital customers over a certain period of time? It can provide very helpful information. And if you're defining a field, all you have to do, let's say we are creating hospitals, and we would designate whether this is a custom field for customers, which it would be, suppliers, which I can't see a purpose for, so I would not check that box, or employees, I would not check that box. The final tab in setting up a customer is the Job Info tab. This is another area that looks like it would be helpful and interesting, but I don't feel that this helps us in our industry too much. I think it's more pertaining to manufacturing. If you have spare time and come back to this later, you might want to take a look and see if it benefits your company. Well, this is the complete setup of our first customer. Take the time to enter the data you need. Once this customer is entered, all of this data is stored in QuickBooks for future use. You do not have to enter this information again, and it's easy to edit if we need to down the road.